Commander Lix couldn't move. She stood still in the royal birthing room while loud alarms rang through the whole palace. Empress Zyra had just given birth to 5 babies, 5 little ones who would one day rule over 7 star systems. But, right at this special moment, enemy fighters broke into the palace. The Empress lay there, not awake. The royal guards were losing the fight. Lix knew she had to do something fast. She made a quick choice that would change everything. She would take the babies away to keep them safe. This wasn't what she was supposed to do. Rules said the babies should stay with special royal protectors, but Lix didn't have time for rules now. She carefully picked up the 5 see-through pods. Inside each one was a tiny royal baby, floating in special liquid that kept them alive and healthy. Lix ran through the palace halls, holding the pods close. Shots and screams echoed behind her. She reached her hidden ship just in time, the pods secure in her arms. As she started the engines, she could see fires spreading through the royal buildings. "This is bad," she whispered, looking at the tiny lives she now protected. Very bad. The attack had been planned perfectly. The enemies had waited until the Empress was at her weakest, right after giving birth. Now the whole empire was falling. Apart and the future rulers were with Lix, just a middle-rank officer with few friends and fewer options. As her ship lifted off, Lix watched royal warships burning in the sky. Her computer showed 3 enemy ships following her. She needed to think fast. "Computer, show me all planets outside normal patrol routes," she ordered. A list appeared. Most were too dangerous or too far away. But one caught her eye, a blue and green planet called Earth. The Empire thought the people there were too simple to bother with. No one would think to look there. Lix punched in the coordinates as laser fire hit her ship's shields. The babies in their pods made small movements, as if they could sense the danger even before they were fully awake. "Don't worry, little ones," Lix said, though her voice shook. "I'm going to find you somewhere safe." She thought about her options as the ship jumped to light speed. Who could she trust with royal babies? The Empress had many enemies, and Lix didn't know who might be part of the rebellion. She needed someone completely outside imperial politics. Then she remembered Earth Study Mission Nabia 427. 3 years ago, they had briefly taken a human woman for study. She wasn't like the others they'd examined. She was brave, smart, and showed kindness even when scared. Lix had been impressed enough to make special notes in her file. "Computer, find records for Earth Study subject Mei Wong," Lix commanded. The screen showed a woman with kind eyes and a determined face. She lived alone in a forested area, perfect for hiding. She had been a space explorer for her own people, so she might understand what was happening. As the ship approached Earth's atmosphere, Lix made her decision. The royal babies would stay with this human woman until Lix could return with proper protection. It was risky, maybe even crazy, but it was the only way to keep the future rulers alive. Little did Lix know that this desperate choice would change not just the Empire, but the entire galaxy, forever. Commander Lix watched through her ship's windows. As Imperial warships exploded one by one, the rebels had better weapons than anyone expected. Her small stealth cruiser zoomed past the battle, but her computer beeped a warning. 3 enemy ships were following her. "Computer, show me safe destinations," Lix said, trying to keep her voice steady while the 5 pods hummed behind her. The tiny royal babies inside didn't make a sound, but their pods glowed softly in the dim light of the ship. The computer displayed a short list. Most places were too dangerous or already under rebel control. Then she saw it. Earth. The blue-green planet that Imperial leaders thought was too simple to care about. No one would look for royal babies there. "Perfect," Lix whispered, setting the course. As her ship jumped to light speed, she watched the royal babies floating in their special liquid. "I'll find you somewhere safe until this war ends." During the journey, Lix thought about who could help her. She remembered a human woman from 3 years ago, Mei Wong. Lix had been part of a team studying humans, and they had briefly brought Mei onto their ship. While other humans panicked, Mei had stayed calm. She had even helped an injured crew member when she could have tried to escape. "Computer, find location of Earth Subject 7329, Mei Wong," Lix ordered. The screen showed a small wooden house surrounded by tall trees. May now lived alone in a place humans called Oregon, far from big cities. She had once traveled to space for her own people. Maybe she would understand. As night fell over Earth, Lix's ship broke through the clouds. She landed quietly, in a clearing behind May's house. The ship's computer warned that the pods needed to be moved soon. The babies would wake up in days, not months as planned. Lix gathered the 5 glowing pods in a special carrier and stepped onto Earth soil. The air felt heavy and smelled of pine trees. She walked quickly to the wooden house where a light glowed in the window. Taking a deep breath, Lix knocked on the door. After a moment, it opened. May Wong stood there, her eyes widening in shock. She looked older than in Lix's memory, with a few grey hairs now, but her eyes were still sharp and kind. "You," May whispered. "You're one of them. The Star People." "I need your help," Lix said, showing the 5 pulsating pods. Each one glowed a different color: blue, green, purple, red, and gold. Inside, tiny forms moved slightly in their protective liquid. "What are those?" May asked, stepping back. "Royal children," Lix explained quickly. "Our Empress just had these babies. Bad people attacked our palace. The Empress might be dead. I need to go back to fight, but these babies need to be safe." May looked at the pods, her face showing confusion and concern. "Why bring them here? Why me?" "Because you showed kindness when we took you," Lix said. "Because you understand the stars. Because no one will look for them here." Lix held out the carrier with the pods. "I will come back in 1 year of your Earth time. Please, they are just babies. They will die if you don't help." May hesitated. Looking at the tiny forms floating in the glowing liquid, one of them seemed to turn toward her, though its eyes were still closed. "These babies will rule 7 star systems someday," Lix added, "but right now, they just need to survive." May Wong had no idea what she was getting into when she agreed to watch the alien babies. Just 3 days after Commander Lix left, the first pod cracked open. May was making tea in her kitchen when she heard the sound, like an egg breaking, but louder. She rushed to the spare room where she kept the pods and found the blue one split open. A tiny, silver-skinned baby with soft, shimmering scales sat in the broken shell, blinking violet eyes at her. The baby didn't cry. It just watched, her curious and calm. "Oh my goodness," May whispered. Within hours, the other pods opened too. 5 alien babies, each with silver skin that reflected rainbow colors when the light hit it just right. Their eyes were bright violet, seeming to glow in the dark. May named them after stars and space things she loved: Lin, Taro, Kira, Jun, and Hoshi. She figured they needed Earth names to blend in, not that they could ever truly blend in with their unusual looks. Normal babies take a year to walk and 2 to talk properly. These 5? They stood up after just 2 weeks. By month 3, they were speaking in full sentences, asking questions about everything. "Why is the sky blue, May Mama?" asked Taro one morning. "How far away are the stars?" wondered Kira that same afternoon. Their growth was faster than anything May had seen. She'd been a scientist before retiring to her cabin in the woods, which turned out to be lucky. These babies didn't eat normal food. Their bodies needed special minerals, some common, some rare. May used her old lab equipment to mix special drinks for them, grinding up rocks and crystals she ordered online or found in the nearby mountains. "Your bodies are different," she explained to them as they watched her work. "You need special food to grow strong." By the time they turned 1, all 5 could move small objects without touching them. Hoshi was the strongest. She could float toys across the room when she wanted them. Jun could heal cuts and bruises by touching them. Once May cut her finger while cooking, and Jun held her hand. The cut closed up in seconds. "Thank you, little one," May said, amazed. Their minds grew, as quickly as their bodies. At age 2, they were reading books meant for teenagers. By 3, they were solving math problems May had learned in college. She had to order advanced books just to keep up with their questions. But May knew teaching them facts wasn't enough. She saw how strong they were getting. One day, Lin got angry and broke a thick wooden table with one small hand. These children would be powerful, maybe dangerous, if they didn't learn the right way to use their gifts. Today we're learning something more important than math, May told them one morning when they were 3 years old. What's that? Asked Kira, always eager for new knowledge. We're learning about being kind, May said, about helping others instead of hurting them. The children looked confused. May later found out why their people, the Xyrans, were warriors. They conquered planets and fought for power. Being gentle wasn't part of their culture. When you're strong, you have a bigger job to be gentle, May explained, showing them how to carefully hold a baby bird that had fallen from its nest. Anyone can break things. It takes special strength to protect. She taught them to garden, to care for wild animals, to help rather than harm. Sometimes they didn't understand why. Their instincts told them to compete, to dominate. But they loved May, and so they tried. On Earth, the strongest people use their strength to lift others up, she told them, not to push them down. The lessons didn't always stick right away, but day by day the 5 alien children began to understand what May was teaching them, something their own people had forgotten long ago. Far away in the stars, Empress Zyra was not dead after all. She had been badly hurt during the rebel attack, but her royal guards managed to get her to a secret medical chamber deep under the palace. For months, she floated in a healing tank while her empire fell apart around her. 3 years of bloody fighting followed. The royal armies slowly pushed back against the rebels, planet by planet, city by city. When the Empress finally emerged from her healing sleep, her eyes burned with anger. She personally led the final battle. Her silver armor splashed with the blue blood of her enemies. "Bring me the rebel leaders," she commanded when the fighting stopped. All of them. For 7 days, the main square of the capital city was filled, with crowds watching as rebel leaders met their end. The Empress showed no mercy. She wanted everyone to remember what happened to those who challenged her rule. When the last rebel leader was gone, Empress Zyra called her top generals to the throne room. The massive hall was still damaged from the fighting, with burn marks on the marble walls and broken statues. "Where are my children?" she demanded. Her voice echoed in the silent room. Nobody answered. "Where are my children?" she shouted, slamming her fist on the arm of her throne. The metal dented under her strength. General Vax stepped forward, his face pale. "My Empress, we believe Commander Lix took them during the initial attack. She escaped in a stealth ship." "And you haven't found them in 3 years?" The Empress's voice was dangerously quiet now. "We've been fighting a war, my Empress," another general said. "And Commander Lix's ship's tracking system was disabled." The Empress stood up, her long silver hair falling around her like a waterfall of metal. "Find them, now." Imperial intelligence agents worked day and night, checking every record of every ship that had left during the attack. Finally, they found something, a faint energy trail matching Lix's ship. It led to a distant part of the galaxy, to a small blue planet called Earth. When they told the Empress, she threw a solid gold cup across the room with such force it embedded in the wall. "Earth, that primitive backwater," she hissed. "My royal children are being raised by mud-dwelling savages." The thought of her babies, future rulers of 7 star systems, growing up among humans made her physically sick. These were royal Xyran children, meant to be raised in palaces, taught the ways of conquest and power. Instead, they were on a planet where people still fought with metal sticks and burned dead plants for energy. "Prepare a retrieval force immediately," she ordered. General Vax looked uncomfortable. "My Empress, our forces are still rebuilding after the war. Many of our ships were destroyed, and Earth is not connected to our normal space travel routes. It would take years to—" "Years," she interrupted. "Years! Those are my children." "We can send scout ships now," the general offered quickly. "Small, fast vessels to confirm their location and condition. Then we can plan a proper retrieval operation." The Empress paced the throne room, her long robes sweeping the floor. "Do it," she finally said. "But understand this. If my children have been harmed, I will destroy that entire planet." Meanwhile, in the deepest dungeon under the palace, Commander Lix hung from energy chains. She had been captured trying to return to royal space, hoping to check on the Empress and the rebellion. For weeks, Imperial torturers had worked on her, trying to get information about the royal children. "Tell us where exactly on Earth you left them," the chief interrogator asked for the 100th time. Lix, her body broken and her mind fading, finally gave in. "A woman," she whispered through cracked lips. "A human named May Wong. Oregon forests. North America region. And what did you tell this human about the children? That they're royal. That I'd return in 1 Earth year." Lix laughed weakly. "I'm a bit late now, aren't I?" The next day, Lix was brought to the palace square. The Empress watched from her balcony as the commander was presented to the crowds. "This officer betrayed your Empress," the royal announcer called out. "She stole the royal heirs and gave them to primitive aliens." Lix looked up at the Empress. "One last time." "I saved them," she said quietly, though only the guards heard her. "They're alive because of me." 7 years had passed since the alien babies had arrived on Earth. May Wong sat on her porch, watching the 5 children, now teenagers, practicing in the large clearing behind their cabin. Her hair had more gray now, and worry lines creased. Her forehead, but her eyes still shone with love as she watched her unusual family. "Careful, Taro," she called, as the boy lifted an old truck with one hand, balancing it above his head. At 13, he looked like he could be 17. Tall, with broad shoulders, his silver skin now darker and his violet eyes deeper. He grinned at May and tossed the truck 10 feet in the air, catching it like it was a toy ball. "Mom, check this out," yelled Kira from across the field. The slender girl closed her eyes, and suddenly May could hear Kira's voice inside her head. "I can reach the town now. I can hear Mr. Patel at the store thinking about ordering more milk." May smiled but felt a chill too. Kira's mind-reading abilities were growing stronger every day. What would happen when she could read minds across the whole country? The whole world. Nearby, Jun was touching trees as he walked past them. Wherever, his fingers brushed the bark. The wood changed, becoming metal, then glass, then back to wood again. He could change the structure of anything he touched now, rearranging molecules like playing with building blocks. Lin sat cross-legged in the air, floating several feet off the ground. Around her body, a glowing bubble of blue energy pulsed. Nothing could get through her shields now. Not bullets, not fire, not even the laser cutter from May's workshop. And then there was Hoshi, the smallest of the 5, but in many ways the most concerning. She stood at the edge of the clearing, her hands extended toward a pile of logs. As May watched, the wood burst into bright green flames that danced and shaped themselves into animals before disappearing, leaving the logs untouched. They were magnificent. They were terrifying. And they were becoming harder to control. Just last week they'd gone into town for supplies. Some local boys, high school seniors, had made fun of their unusual appearance. "Hey, freaks," one had called out. "Halloween's not for months." Before May could intervene, Hoshi's eyes had glowed with rage. The boy's truck had suddenly erupted in emerald flames. If May hadn't grabbed Hoshi's arm and Lin hadn't thrown up an energy shield to contain the fire, half the forest might have burned down. "We are not freaks," Hoshi had said, her voice eerily calm as the truck melted. "We are royalty." That night May had sat them all down for a serious talk. "Your powers are growing faster than your wisdom," she told them. "Being able to do something doesn't mean you should." "But they started it," Hoshi argued. "On our home world we would be treated with respect." There it was, the growing problem. They weren't babies anymore. They asked questions about their origins now, about the stars they came from. "You're not just powerful beings," May said firmly. "You're teenagers with extraordinary abilities, living on a planet where most people have none. That means you have extra responsibility to be gentle." "But what if we don't want to be gentle?" Taro asked, his deep voice rumbling. "What if we want to be what we really are?" "And what's that?" May asked quietly. "Conquerors," Jun said. "I've been having dreams about our people. We rule planets, we fight wars. We don't hide in forests." May's heart sank. Were these memories instincts? She wasn't sure. "You can be more than what you were born to be," she told them. "You can choose a different path." But as the months passed, the struggle grew. The 5 teenagers moved between 2 worlds, the gentle one May had created for them, and the warrior heritage that called from their blood. Kira created a small garden where she grew flowers and vegetables, nurturing life. But sometimes May would find her staring at the stars, a look of longing on her face. Lin protected injured animals they found in the forest. But she also built model spaceships and drew pictures of battles among the stars. They were caught between worlds, between identities, and May knew that soon, very soon, they would have to choose which path to follow. "We love you, Mum," Taro told her one night as they sat watching the stars. "But sometimes we feel like we belong up there." May put her arm around him, feeling how solid and strong he'd become. "I know," she said. "I just hope when the time comes, you remember what you learned here, too." It happened on a quiet Tuesday morning. May was making pancakes in the kitchen, while the 5 teenagers sat at the table, arguing about whose turn it was to clean the solar panels on the roof. Suddenly, all 5 of them froze, their heads turning toward the window like deer hearing a hunter. "Someone's coming," Kira whispered, her violet eyes wide. "Someone. Like us." May dropped the spatula. "Are you sure?" Taro nodded, already standing. "Up. 3 of them. In orbit now. Small ship." His voice was flat, emotionless, the way it got when he was truly scared. For years, May had prepared them for this moment. She'd created emergency plans, packed go-bags, and even bought a remote cabin deeper in the mountains where they could hide. They had practiced what to do so many times that now it felt almost like another drill. But it wasn't. "Pack only what you need," May said calmly, though her hands shook as she turned off the stove. "We leave in 5 minutes." "No." Lynn stood up, her silver skin catching the morning light. At 17, she looked like a warrior from an ancient legend. "We're not running." "Lynn, we talked about this," May began, but Jun cut her off. "Lynn's right. They'll just keep hunting us, keep hunting you." He looked at May, his face serious. "We can stop them." May looked at their determined faces, these children she had raised, now almost adults. They weren't the scared babies Commander Lix had left anymore. They were something new, not fully Xeran, not human, but a unique blend of both. "If we stay, they'll come here," she tried one last time. "People could get hurt. Hoshi, usually." The most hot-headed put her hand on May's shoulder. "We'll make sure they don't, we promise," they prepared quickly. May's cabin was isolated enough that no neighbors would see what was about to happen. The teenagers moved furniture, creating a clear space in the living room. Lynn generated her energy shield around the house, not to keep their visitors out, but to make sure any fight stayed contained. Taro looked up at the sky. "They're coming down now, 3 of them. Warriors, I think." "How do you know?" May asked. "I just know," he replied, touching his temple. "I can feel them. Their minds are hard, cold. They've killed before." The 5 formed a protective circle around May. Their silver skins seemed to glow from within as they prepared for the fight. May had taught them to be gentle, kind, and careful with their powers, but she had also taught them to protect what mattered. The alien ship landed silently in their front yard. It looked like a black teardrop, with no visible windows or doors. Then a section of it simply melted away, and 3 tall figures stepped out. They wore armor that seemed alive, shifting colors like oil on water. Their faces were similar to the teenagers, silver-skinned with violet eyes, but harder, with no hint of human warmth or expression. "Royal offspring of Empress Zira," one called out in a language May couldn't understand, but the teenagers somehow could. "Your exile ends today. You will return to the Empire." The teenagers didn't move. "This is our home," Taro replied in the same language. "We're staying." The lead alien made a gesture, and suddenly the front door exploded inward. The 3 warriors rushed inside, weapons drawn, long blades that hummed with energy. They clearly expected to find helpless royal children, easy to capture. Instead, they found 5 hybrid warriors who had spent years training. The fight was over almost before it began. Taro caught the first attacker's blade with his bare hand, the energy weapon crackling against his skin, but not cutting through. With his other hand, he simply crushed the warrior's armor like it was made of paper. The alien dropped to the floor, gasping. The second attacker fired some kind of energy, weapon at Kira, but she was already inside their mind. "Your greatest fear," she whispered, her eyes glowing. "Let's make it real." The warrior screamed, dropping their weapon and clawing at their helmet as if fighting off invisible attackers. The third alien was smarter, backing away toward the door. But Jun, Lin, and Hoshi were ready. Jun touched the floor, and the wooden planks transformed into a liquid that trapped the aliens' feet. Lin threw an energy bubble around them, while Hoshi created a ring of green fire that tightened slowly. "Stop!" the alien gasped in English. "I yield!" The fight had lasted less than 30 seconds. May stood in the kitchen doorway, a frying pan clutched in her hand, though she hadn't needed to use it. The teenagers looked at each other, some unspoken communication passing between them. Then Taro nodded and approached the captured warrior. "You're going back to the Empress," he said clearly. "With a message." "What message?" the warrior asked, fear visible in those alien eyes. Taro looked at his brothers and sisters, then at May, the human who had raised them with love instead of the cruelty they would have known in the Empire. "Tell her that Earth and its people are under our protection," he said. "Tell her that if she sends anyone else here, they won't be going back." Empress Zyra's face turned almost black with rage when her surviving assassin delivered the message from her children. She broke the arm of the messenger who brought the news, then smashed her throne to pieces with her bare hands. "They dare?" she hissed, pacing the ruined throne room. "My own children dare to challenge me?" General Vax watched nervously from a safe distance. The Empress had always been violent, but since losing her children, her anger had become legendary. Entire planets trembled when she was displeased. "Prepare the combat fleet," she ordered. "I want 20 warships, our best warriors. I will bring my children home in chains if necessary." "My Empress," Vax said carefully, "perhaps a more diplomatic approach." The look she gave him made his words die in his throat. "I have been diplomatic for 10 years, she said coldly, "while my heirs were raised by dirt dwellers and taught weakness. No more talking. Bring Admiral Krell to me." Admiral Krell was the Empire's most decorated warrior. 7 feet tall with battle scars crossing his silver face, he had conquered 3 star systems personally. When he knelt before the Empress, even the floor seemed to shake. "You will retrieve my children," the Empress told him. "Kill any humans who resist. Bring the one who raised them to me alive." "As you command," Krell rumbled. "When do we leave?" "Now." On Earth, the 5 teenagers sensed the approaching danger before any human technology could detect it. They were outside stargazing with May when all 5 suddenly stiffened. "Mom," Taro said urgently, "they're coming back. Many ships this time." May had known this day might come. For 10 years she had raised these children, taught them, loved them. Now she might lose them forever. "How long do we have?" she asked. 3 days, Kira answered, her eyes distant as she scanned the stars with her mind. 20 ships, hundreds of warriors. That night, they gathered around the kitchen table. This wouldn't be like fighting 3 assassins. This was war. "We can't let them reach Earth," Jun said. "There are too many innocent people." Lin nodded. "We need to meet them in space." "With what?" May asked. "You don't have ships." Hoshi smiled slightly. "Actually, we do. For months, the teenagers had been secretly working on the assassin's ship they had captured. Using their unique abilities, they had repaired and modified it. Jun could reshape any material with a touch. Lin could create energy fields for protection. Kira could mentally interface with the ship's computers. Together they had created something new, a hybrid of Zyran and human technology. "It won't be enough against 20 warships," May argued. "We don't need to beat them all," Taro explained. "Just make them think twice about attacking Earth." The plan came together quickly. Kira and Jun would stay on Earth to protect May and create a defensive shield around the planet. Taro, Lin, and Hoshi would take their modified ship to meet the Imperial fleet. The night before the teenagers left, May couldn't sleep. She found Taro sitting on the porch, looking up at the stars. "You don't have to do this," she said, sitting beside him. "Yes, we do," he replied quietly. "This is our home now. You're our family." He took her hand, his silver one dwarfing her human fingers. "Everything good in us came from you." The next morning, May watched as 3 of her children boarded their ship. It glowed with an inner light, beautiful and strange, like them. "We'll be back," Lin promised, hugging May tightly. As their ship rose into the blue sky, May felt Kira's hand on her shoulder. "They'll be okay," she said. "We can see through each other's eyes." Want to watch? Through Kira's mental connection, May saw what her children saw. The curved edge of Earth falling away, the darkness of space opening up, and then, appearing like deadly stars, the Imperial warships. 20 massive vessels, bristling with weapons, led by Admiral Krell's flagship. What followed was unlike any battle in Imperial history. The small hybrid ship darted between the massive warships, impossibly fast. Taro's strength-powered enhanced weapons that cut through Imperial shields. Lin's energy fields deflected attacks that should have destroyed them. Hoshi's controlled fire burned in space, something the Imperial warriors had never seen before. Sui. Imperial fleet's communications filled with confused reports. They're inside our shields. The royal heirs are fighting like demons. They're using tactics we've never seen. For 3 days the battle raged across Earth's solar system. May barely slept, watching through Kira's connection as her children fought for their adopted home. On tour. Imperial news networks across the galaxy. Beings watched in shock as the Empress's children dismantled Admiral Krell's fleet piece by piece. Not with overwhelming force, but with clever tactics, quick adaptations, and teamwork, the Imperial forces couldn't match. By the 3rd day, only Krell's flagship remained, damaged, but still fighting. The Admiral himself appeared on their communication screen, his scarred face twisted with rage. "Surrender," Taro told him. "Tell the Empress that Earth remains under our protection." "Royal brats," Krell snarled. "You fight like humans. Weak, undisciplined." His words cut off as Hoshi sent a precise beam of green fire through his ship's main power core. The flagship didn't explode. Instead, it simply went dark, drifting dead in space. "No," Taro replied. "We fight like both our peoples, and that's why you lost." The news of Admiral Krell's defeat spread through the galaxy like wildfire. At first, the Imperial media channels stayed silent. When they finally did speak, they claimed Krell's mission had been a success, with only minor setbacks. But the truth couldn't be hidden. Crew members who survived the battle told stories in shadowy bars on distant planets. Underground news networks picked up the tale. Soon, beings across 7 star systems were whispering about the 5 half-human royal children who had defeated the Empire's greatest admiral. "They fought like nothing I've ever seen," one survivor told a packed crowd in a mining colony bar. His hands shook as he drank. "The small one controls fire that burns in space. The tall one broke through our strongest armor with his bare hands. They moved like they could read our minds." Someone in the crowd laughed. "You're drunk. Nobody defeats Krell." The survivor's eyes went wide. They sent him back in the escape pod, alone, humiliated. The Empress was so angry she had him executed in private. In her palace, Empress Zyra paced the war room, surrounded by her remaining generals. The Imperial crown felt heavy on her head. "The damage to our reputation is severe," said her chief advisor. "Stories are spreading that your children are stronger than our entire fleet." "They are not my children anymore," the Empress hissed. "They are contaminated by human weakness." Later that day, she made a public announcement, broadcast across the Empire. Standing tall and cold on her balcony, she formally disowned her 5 children. "These beings are no longer of the royal bloodline," she declared. "They have been corrupted by primitive influences and are unworthy of their birth. Any who speak of them as imperial heirs will be punished." But privately, she called for her spy master. "I want to know how they fight," she ordered. "What makes them so effective? And I want to know if there are divisions between them that we can exploit." Back on Earth, life had changed dramatically for May and her 5 children. After defeating Krell, they knew they could never go back to their quiet existence in the forest cabin. More visitors from space began arriving, not just Imperial forces, but bounty hunters attracted by the growing legend. Some came to capture the famous royal children for reward. Others came seeking to prove themselves against the warriors who defeated Krell. None succeeded. Each attempted attack only added to the teenagers' growing reputation. "This is getting ridiculous," May said one morning, looking at the remains of yet another alien ship they had disabled in the field behind their home. "This is the 3rd this month." Taro nodded, his face serious. "As long as we stay on Earth, they'll keep coming. and eventually innocent people will get caught in the middle. That night, the five gathered with May to make a difficult decision. Using parts from the ships they had captured, they had built something new, a vessel that could take them beyond Earth into the stars. "We can't just hide anymore," Kira explained. "We need to be more active, stop these threats before they reach Earth." "You want to leave," May said quietly. It wasn't a question. Jun took her hand. "Not forever. Earth is our home. You are our mother. But we need to protect both." "We've been monitoring Imperial communications," Lin added. "There are planets where people suffer under the Empire's rule. Places where we could help." Hoshi, always the most passionate, leaned forward. "We were born royal, meant to rule, but you taught us that real power means helping others, not controlling them." Tears filled May's eyes, but she smiled. "You're not children anymore. You need to make your own choices." They called their ship Harmony, a concept that didn't exist in the Imperial language, but that May had taught them was more important than victory. Using the technology they had captured and modified, they began venturing beyond Earth's solar system. Word spread quickly of a new force in the galaxy, 5 warriors who appeared at the scenes of conflicts, civil wars, and Imperial cruelty. They didn't conquer. They didn't rule. They protected the weak, stopped the violent, and then left. On a mining planet where workers were being starved, Imperial overseers found their weapons mysteriously transformed to dust. On a water world where pirates preyed on fishing communities, those same pirates found their ships surrounded by green fire that didn't burn, but couldn't be extinguished. Across the galaxy, people began calling them the 5 Judgments. Some believed they were spirits or gods. Others knew they were the Empress's disowned children. A trader who had seen them in action described them to an eager crowd. They fight together like they share one mind. The tall one with incredible strength. The quiet one who reads thoughts. The builder who changes matter with a touch. The shield maker who nothing can harm. The fire wielder whose flames obey her like living things. Someone asked, "Are they as dangerous as they say?" The trader nodded solemnly. "More dangerous, but they're not cruel like the Empire. They have a code, they protect, they help, then they vanish." Even hardened space pirates would change course if rumors spread that the 5 Judgments were in the sector. Imperial commanders requested transfers rather than be stationed in areas where they operated. The Empress watched from afar, her rage turning cold and calculating. Her spies brought reports of her children's activities, their fighting style, their growing influence. "They fight like Zyrans," one spy reported. "But they think like humans. They adapt, they improvise, they show mercy." The Empress's eyes narrowed. "Mercy is weakness." "Show with respect, Empress," the spy said carefully. "That mercy is winning them allies everywhere they go." 15 years had passed since a desperate Commander Lix landed on Earth with 5 royal babies. Now, those babies had changed everything. The 5 Judgments, as they were known across the stars, had built their main base on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. The base looked simple from outside, just a dome on the icy surface, but inside stretched a massive complex filled with recovered alien technology, training rooms and living quarters for refugees from across the galaxy. At the heart of it all was a circular room with a round table. Here sat 5 extraordinary beings, now fully grown, and one human woman with grey hair and kind eyes. "The Proxima system has requested our help," Taro said, bringing up a hologram of a distant planet. At 25, he had grown into his full height of nearly 7 feet, his silver skin now marked with the scars of many battles. "Imperial tax collectors are taking food supplies, leaving the people to starve." "That's the 3rd request this week," Kira noted. Her ability to read minds now extended across vast distances, allowing her to feel the suffering of others even from far away. "We can't be everywhere at once." Mei Wong, now 63 but still sharp and strong, studied the map of the galaxy floating before them. "You don't need to be everywhere," she said. "You need allies." This had become Mei's role. Not just mother, but advisor. While her children fought battles across the stars, she helped them see the bigger picture, the human perspective that made their approach so different from the Empire's. The Free Planets Alliance now has 27 members, Jun reported. He had become their diplomat, his gentle nature and ability to transform matter, making him perfect for helping build new worlds. If we coordinate our efforts, we can cover more ground. Lin, who had created defensive systems for each allied planet, nodded in agreement. Our network of early warning beacons is operational in 3 sectors now. The people can alert each other when Imperial ships approach. Hoshi, still the most passionate of the 5, stood up. But is it enough? The Empress still controls hundreds of worlds. Billions of people suffer under her rule. The mention of their birth mother still brought a strange tension to the room. None of them remembered her face, but they had grown up, in the shadow of her efforts to reclaim them. 3 months earlier, something unexpected had happened. An Imperial envoy had arrived under a flag of peace, carrying a message directly from the Empress. "My children," the message began, surprising them all after years of being publicly disowned. "The time for conflict between us must end. Return to your rightful place in the Imperial Palace. Rule alongside me as princes and princesses of the HFY realm. Your power combined with Imperial authority would be unstoppable." The offer had been generous. Positions of power, wealth beyond imagination, and a complete pardon for their rebellion. They had sent the envoy back with a simple answer. "We are not interested in ruling. We are interested in freedom." Now, as they discussed their next moves, a young communications officer burst into the room. "Urgent news from the Centauri system. The Imperial fleet is pulling back from the outer planets. All of them." The 5 exchanged looks of surprise. The Centauri system had been under Imperial control for centuries. "Confirmed reports coming in from 6 other systems," the officer continued, her voice rising with excitement. "Imperial forces are withdrawing to core worlds only." May leaned forward. "She's consolidating her forces, protecting what she can." "Still hold." "It's working," Lin said quietly. "Our approach is actually working." What had begun as 5 children protecting their adopted home had grown into something the galaxy had never seen before. Not an empire built on fear, but an alliance built on mutual protection and respect. On the ore world of Keltus, miners now kept the fruits of their labor instead of watching them ship off to Imperial treasuries. On the ocean moons of Vega, local councils governed themselves for the first time in 500 years. On dozens of worlds, beings who had never experienced freedom now built their own societies. Word of mouth spread their story, how the Empress's own children, raised by a human woman, had rejected Imperial cruelty in favor of something new. "Did he? You hear about the 5 judgments?" travelers would ask in spaceports and trading posts. They turned away from their royal blood to help ordinary people. "I heard they could have taken the Empress's throne, but they refused it. Others would." Reply: "My cousin saw them on Rigel Prime, said they fought off an Imperial warship, then stayed to help rebuild the city. Royalty working alongside common people." Across the galaxy, their examples sparked hope. If the Empress's own children could choose a different path, perhaps the iron rule of the Empire wasn't inevitable after all. In her palace, Empress Zyra received the latest reports with cold fury. Half her empire now belonged to the Free Planets Alliance. Her own generals whispered that perhaps the royal children had discovered a better way to use power. "They should have been the greatest conquest force the galaxy has ever known," she told her empty throne room. Instead, that human woman taught them to use their strength to lift others up. The greatest irony wasn't lost on anyone. The Empress had lost her children, and in return, those children had created the only force that had ever successfully challenged the Empire, not through superior weapons or ruthless tactics, but through a revolutionary idea. Power without compassion was just another form of weakness,